Righty, so hope you can hear me okay. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, it's fucking pissing down rain, so I can't put the studio. But the stuff it's pretty dry, fortunately. Obviously we've got a few frickin', this is actually isn't that bad. I might even get away with just knocking the run off and then just giving it a bath, to be honest. I was hoping to just try and get a decent smooth coat of paint on. That gun, yeah, I wasn't used to it. I was, to be honest, silly, and I should have sprayed the insides with it. I was trying to save it and keep it really clean to do the outside, and it's kind of bit me. I think if I'd sprayed the insides, I would have realised that I wasn't quite used to the speed that it put paint on. I think that was my biggest problem, because I'm not used to having a gun that will just pour it on like that. At the normal settings I would use, which is about 3 turns out in the needle, so basically turn on the fluid needle all the way in, and then turn it at about 3 turns. That seems to be a pretty good rule of thumb with most spray guns. You can dial it in from there. That one will give you a pretty good starting point, but because that thing here is such a monster fan, and it just wants to pour the paint on, it's freaking awesome. It just lays it down. Like the first coat on it, apart from the runs, they were just beautiful. Like the finish was better than I've ever put down before. But yeah, it's just because it was overloaded and just in a few wee spots, the gun probably just needed dialed back probably about 1.5, and maybe just a little bit less air pressure, so it just wasn't sucking quite so much paint through, and maybe just close the fan up a little bit. I tried to run with it, but yeah, I should have just dialed it back a little. And if I'd sprayed that, yeah, the inside, I would have maybe got a slightly better hand on it. It's bit me in the ass a wee bit, but I love the gun. It's just a matter of getting used to it. I just haven't sprayed with anything of that quality before, apart from when I flick the chassis, but it's kind of neither here nor there. And that's possibly why I ended up with runs in the back of the chassis, because it poured so much paint on so fast. That was the only other time I've used it. It's probably why I ended up with runs in the back too. But yeah, I think it's probably a matter of just using it a couple of times and just getting used to it, and probably have to just move. I think because my other guns haven't been working very well, I'm moving a bit slow with my pattern, just not probably going fast enough, and that's probably hindered me too. I got used to moving slow to try and get it on, whereas that just wants to pour it on. I think, yeah, to be honest, I think I'm going to throw that primer gun away as well. I might keep it as a backup, but I think once I get into another job or two, I see there's some quite nice guns available on the site, or the place that I get all my stuff from, all my paint products, and then where I got that gun from. They got some reasonable price 1.8s. I think I might get one of them. I'll have a talk to the guy I get all my stuff off, Andy, and I'll get one of those, because at least then I'll have a decent primer gun too that might just lay it down better, and I'll have less issues putting them. Once I have less issues, but I thought that gun of mine would have just sprayed that stuff through without having to thin it, the primer. I was only thinning it 10% just to get it to lay on, but I couldn't get it to spray through that gun. And maybe it's just because I don't know whether it's a poor design or a low end gun or whatever. It just doesn't want to spray it on very nice unless I thin it. And I think maybe the air cap is just very poor on it too. It hasn't got a very good seal as well. And it's just not drawing through the same because it's bleeding ear, maybe bleeding ear. Sometimes it sprays good and sometimes it doesn't. That's why I was going to get a new needle and seat and tip, but I don't think I'll bother. I think I'll just buy a better fucking gun. Same principle. Like my old blue one, the very original one that I sprayed the insides of this with, actually sprays down pretty good when it's nice and clean and everything's working right. It doesn't seem to give any ear issues. It's always been pretty solid. Like I've used it for quite a few things. And it's never given me any issues. So yeah, it's always been right. And I used it to spray the back of that chassis and the insides of the stuff, and it laid it down pretty good. I didn't have many issues, but yeah, just that other thing is just wants to monster the paint on, and I just wasn't used to it, and it sort of fucking bit me in the ass. But anyway, I think that's kind of the plan. Just going ahead with spray guns. I need to get a couple of better guns, and I need to probably get a better gun for clear as well. Get a 1.4 for clear as well. If I ever happen to be doing anything that needs clear, most of these old girls really are just straight base. Really, you know, you just single stage, because that's what they were painted in. I don't really see the point unless it had metallic in it, but most of these were just solid colours. They didn't have clear, so why do it any different, if you know what I mean? Like if you're doing a restoration, you know, you do it like it was, you're just using better modern materials, obviously, you know, using two-pack paints and stuff like that, whereas these would have been, I don't know whether they would have been painted in an enamel or something else, if you know what I mean, back in the day. And they're probably brush painted. To be honest, I don't know if they were spraying back then, or they were brush painted, or how they did it. But yeah, so you're trying to use like with like modern materials and obviously putting it on nicely, but yeah, it just bit me on the ass. Anyway, so we'll give this a quick wet sand. I've got a couple of light runs here, just a very light one there. I think it's just the remnants of one here. And the rest we'll just give it a nice wet sand, just to flatten it off. Again, this is a little bit orange peely after the third coat. But yeah, I'm hoping if the weather settles down, even if it's late this afternoon or something like that, yeah, we'll have a wee play with that gun. I might find something just have a wee spray on, and see if we can just get it to settle down a little bit, but still lay the paint out nice. And yeah, we'll just try and give it one real nice coat on the main parts that you really see. And it's not so critical around the edges, because you know, we'll better leave that, we'll just dust it in. But yeah, see if we can just get a nice glossy coat over top. It shouldn't need any more than that unless I happen to have to sand a lot. But my idea for the runs is, I've got a razor blade here, so where the run is, actually where's that? Get the backing board for this thing. What the hell is that here? Where's the run? Shit out. So if they need a fucking bit of light in here too, it would help. We can't see it. Turn it around. Frickin', yeah. Still can't see it. Just the light's in the wrong place. I can, but I can't. Basically, just going to run the blade over top of the run, just to take it off. Just scraping that run down, just to get rid of that eye. And then we can wet sand it out afterwards, so we don't have to take so much paint off. soft. Well, that's actually a bit of shit. Let's see, but it doesn't matter. So that's gone now, basically. I think we want it. Put a bit of shit underneath the paint. Well, it looks like it half around there. I don't know. There's one. Righty, so we've got 2 rear fenders basically done. I'm going to have to go back over it a little bit and obviously get the shiny stuff off. I've got this one, I think, beat. I've still got to do the balances. I was hoping I didn't have to do them, but I see there's a couple of frickin' look down where? About there somewhere. There's a frickin' wee sag in it, which is a pain. I thought I got away with at least one of them, because the tops are right. Like I could almost get away with just giving that a wee polish, and this is pretty good. If it didn't have that little frickin' sag, I would have left it alone. Pain, but anyway. And this one here might be okay, is it? Might be. Yeah. Which is not quite as flat as I would. It's a little bit orange peely. It's not bad. It's actually not that flat across the top. It's not as flat as I thought it was. Yeah, this would be actually alright, but I might just give it a light wet sand and then we'll just put another coat in it and see if we can get it just to sit out a wee bit flatter, like some of the other stuff, like the first coat that I did sat down. And then obviously we're still going to wet sand this because I haven't done anything with it from yesterday. It was too soft. I tried to wet sand it and you can see I started pulling the paint out. Kinda, I wouldn't say I did, but it just needs a good wet sand, and then we can just mist this in and make it look good. I should have, the other night, which I've got in the other video I'm still editing, which I'll probably cut off at the end of this when I screwed up. I was going to put another coat on it when I'd not long sprayed it with the other gun, and I should have done that, or I should have just left the fucking thing alone. And then, but yeah, I probably should have just done the extra coat and sprayed it over top and left it. But it's all right. We'll get it there. We'll just have to have a good look around, make sure we've got all the shiny bits on the edges, make sure that we haven't missed any like little runs or whatever, or any mild little sags or anything that we haven't got. Right, morning guys. So Saturday morning. It looks like it's going to be a good day today. It's cool this morning, so I got most of the doors up. Try and get some temp in here. The sun's really just starting to break. Well, it's not quite break, like about half an hour ago. It'll probably become daylight, so we're just waiting the temperature to lift a little bit. It's only about 9 to 10 degrees C, which would be maybe 40, might be a little bit more than 40, 42 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what the conversion is. I'd have to work it out. So I'm just going to do a last clean up here, reset myself up, and I've decided, which I probably should have done the first time, is I've got this test panel I actually used just to get a rough idea on how to make this shape. This is actually for the Studebaker. So this is like a little test panel door that I made, just a small version of it. So I'm going to give this a wee clean up and wipe it down. And I'm just going to use that. Obviously I'm not going to put any primer on it. I'm not worried about the paint sticking. But I'm just going to hang it vertical. And once I get myself sorted, once I get my paint mixed up and everything like that, I'm just going to use that to do a couple of passes over, and make sure my settings aren't too high and you end up with paint running or sags or something like that. Just give myself something to test on first and see if I can just get a freaking handle on this and that gun. I've got it dialed back from the other day, and I gave it a really good rinse out. I'll give it another rinse out, but I haven't touched any settings from the other day. So I think initially I had it about 3 and a little bit, turns out, I think, from memory when after I'd done the chassis, and when I cleaned it and then put it back together, I think that's where I set it. And now obviously I played with the fan a little bit before I started spraying, because it's got a monster. And I think I started about 30, it recommends on the box about 32 psi, and even the guy I bought it off said spray it at 32. And at my initial first look at, looks like it bloody just lays it down, but whether I'm not moving fast enough or what, I don't know. That's the biggest problem, like with not spraying all the time. You know, if I was spraying regularly, like once a week or even once a fortnight, I'd have a lot better handle on putting paint on. I can lay paint down pretty good, but obviously, you know, if you're not doing it, you know, at a reasonably regular interval, and getting used to it, like 12 months apart is probably too far apart to get a really good feel for everything all the time. You just have to sort of dial it in. And because the primer gun's nowhere near as good as that, you know, when you're spraying down, laying down primer, if you had a gun that would sort of spray down the same or similar, you'd get a better feel for it too, but it's radically different to everything else. It just wants to just blow the paint on. And it does, that first coat, if you go back to the other video, it just laid it on like glass. Apart from where obviously where there's probably just a wee bit much overlap, or because of the way the shapes of the panels, like you have to come in from the other direction to get another edge, and it's obviously just where that paint's rolling over, yeah, it just end up with runs in it. So I'm hoping if I dial the air pressure down, I think I had it about 20, so yeah, I'd like a bigger panel to play with, so I could just get it to get at least a couple of swats and just to see how it lays, especially on the vertical. Like flat is easy, like a flat panel, or on the top of the panel, like on the top of the hood or bonnet, as long as it's not wide and you're really reaching. It's pretty easy to get it to lay down really flat. It's the sides and whatever, you know, you get a nice glassy finish. But yeah, it's just a matter of me getting where I feel comfortable with the gun and get a good finish, because I don't really want to be pouring 3 or 4 coats on this thing. I'm thinking where the bare splotches are, like wherever I back through the primer, I would like to just, if I can, just put just a touch of colour on there, just to barely pull the trigger and just mist a little bit on there just to bring the colour. Frig off and leave it for a few minutes, let that set in, and go off, and then pour my one coat over, just to see how that works. But yeah, that's kind of a plan. So I'm half tempted, I don't know, I was just thinking about it overnight. I've got some 800 wet and dry here. Just wonder if I should just give all these just by hand, give them all a very quick once over with 800, because I've got a wee while before the temp's probably going to be warm enough to do this properly. Ideally, probably should be spraying it in the afternoon, but I don't want to be spraying it this afternoon. I want to be able to leave it as long as I can, so I can move it back out of the road, get the studio back in here later on tonight. So if I can get it sprayed before lunch, that gives me I can leave it till about 8 o'clock tonight, come back down here, move everything back, so when I'm hopefully going to touch it, I'm not going to leave any, well, I don't want to touch the panels, but hopefully I can just grab it and move it and hold it somewhere where it's not seen and not leave any major fingerprints in it, because even yesterday when I was wet sanding, it was still soft, like I wasn't leaving prints per se, but if I leaned on it with my arm or my sleeve, or even just hold my finger on it, would leave a smudge mark in the paint. It wouldn't distort the paint, but it would leave a mark in it. It wasn't really a raw soft, but it was still green, if you know what I mean. Really green, like it was borderline green enough to sand, but yeah, that's why I'm contemplating just giving it because it's had another wee while to cure up overnight. Maybe just give it a little wet sand with some 800, just see if we can get a wee bit more polished before we put on colour again, and just have a clean up. But yeah, so that's kind of my plan for this morning. So we'll get that done. Hopefully the tent comes up nicely and reasonably quick, and we can get into it. Righty. So I've just got that test panel set up there. And I was just blowing reducer, thinners, whatever through the gun. And I was just playing with fan settings. I've got the gun set on, I think, 2 on the fluid needle. I think that's what I said to that. I'll just have to double check that. I might have been tooling a little bit. And I played with the fan settings, and at full open, it'll cover that fucking whole panel. Like, I can just stand there and just pull the trigger, and it'll leave a stripe on the whole panel. And we'll just give you an idea of how big that panel is. So this is a 12-inch square. So it's a bit over 12 inches, so probably 13 and a half, 14 inches deep, that panel. And it'll leave basically a clean stripe on there. So I played around with it a little bit, and I might put a little bit more reducer and just play with it a bit more. But I will do the same with paint too before I paint. And just do maybe a couple of test stripes, or just fans at each end, just so I'm happy with, obviously, because paint's obviously thicker than thinners, but that still gives me an idea what the fan is. But I was just playing with it a little bit, and I was closed it in. If I got it in too far, and I did a swipe, it would run. So I'm just wondering, I don't know, because I closed it in a little bit for a start off, when I was mucking around, when I still had it at 3 and a wee bit, I think, on the fluid tip. Yeah, I don't know, just trying to get my head around it, and just see what I think's going to work, so I don't end up having to redo this again, because I don't really want to be doing that. I'm just half tempted to. I'm just about ready to paint, but I just don't know if there's enough temp yet. It's not bad in the sun here. This panel's really warm. But if I close the doors to get rid of the breeze, it's just a very slight breeze, barely nothing. But you can just feel that just a slight shift coming into here. It might be because it's cool in here, I don't know. But it's a bloody perfect day. If it stays like this and just warms up a little bit, it'd be perfect, like in another hour. But I'm just wondering if maybe I just had it closed up a little bit much, and maybe should have just left the fan slightly fuller, just so it wasn't concentrating the paint quite so close together. I don't know, but man, it's got a monster fan on this thing. Yeah, so it's to find that happy medium setting between the amount of paint coming through and the fan. Yeah, and just with not being familiar with the gun, yeah, it's a little bit, to and fro, and probably until you've done a little bit of work with it. And it's unfortunate. If I had an old hood or a bonnet or something like that, I'd have especially like something from the 60s or 70s, which was quite large. It'd be quite nice to have there even just a test spray on occasionally. You could just do 2 or 3 passes on it. Just make sure that was happy, especially vertical. Vertical is the critical thing, or even slightly over vertical, if you know what I mean, like on these edges and stuff where these panels are leaning over quite a lot. I've actually wired the panel to the stand just so it doesn't, if I just happen to bump or kick the stand, that they don't frickin' fall off. I've just put a wee bit of welding wire onto one of the holes on here. I don't know if you can see. No, you can't. Sorry, I got wound in too much. Yeah, on one of the pieces here, hopefully you can see that, I've got a wee bit of welding wire just to the edge of the panel stand, just to stop this from slipping this way. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting that fluid right, especially when I don't know the gun, and getting the fan right so we're not getting too much material on, but not getting too little on, and still got a nice fan so you're getting a good coverage, and you can do a nice overlap to get a really clean, sweet coverage. Like the rule of thumb is still the same, but this thing just, I don't know, it's obviously very efficient. It puts the paint on the panel, it's not spraying it everywhere else, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and it just, like the guy said, these things are just absolute monsters. Once you get used to it, you'll love it. And like just with the first blow on, like I can see that it's going to be awesome. I've just got to get a handle on it and get used to it, and work out what speed I need to be doing spraying at, if you know what I mean. Because every gun is different, and every job is different. Like the panels, the shapes are different. Rule of thumb is the same, but yeah, I just got to get used to how much paint this puts out and how big a fan I need and all that sort of stuff just to get a feel for it. So yeah, that'll be my little test piece. But yeah, man, I just wish I had something bigger to play with, to get a feel for it. Off the motherfucking gun. I can probably get that gun dialed in better, but I'm pretty fucking happy. Off the gun. Off that gun. Motherfucker, yeah. One hit, two. I've got enough in the gun if I'm not happy with something, I just want to give it another quick coat. Just to let it flash for a bit. It's a little motley, but it's not too bad. I could probably just give that another wee pass, just to freshen her up. Make her look a little bit better. Maybe just puff a little bit of black in around these just a little more before I do it. What I did was all the bare spots, I just went in and I just gently just pulled the trigger and just slowly built the colour up. Like I didn't go and try and pour it on fast, I just built the colour up underneath, and then I just basically left it. And any panels that I didn't really need to colour, like this and that, then I just sprayed them, and then I just left these to go off for 10, and then I went back and I just sort of just stood at the panel that I was going to spray first, and I just blew air across it with the gun not pulling full trigger, and just tried to get that top to just dry off a little bit more. And then yeah, I've got the gun slowed down enough. I think it would be nicer just to run it slightly more open when I get used to it. I'll open it up a little bit more when I get used to it. But I am fucking stoked with the results. This was what I was after with the studio, you know. And I've wet sanded this with 800, and I've obviously cleaned it down with prep wipe, and I tack ragged it. So hopefully, that's the biggest problem. I need a few more lights in here. A few more lights just to brighten the place up a little bit. We can just spray in dark colours. There's a touch of a old run there, just barely. But I think we'll just leave it alone. It's not that, like you can kind of just see almost looks like there's a shadow of an old run there. But we'll just leave it alone. Somebody else, if they want to wet sand it or buff it or something at some other point, or polish it, you know, they might get it better. A little bit more light will just show if I've got anything a little bit hazy anywhere, but I'm pretty stoked. Pretty stoked. I might just recoat this too because I've got a little bit dry here, but I'll just leave it for a few. It's not hard to give this another coat. I've probably got enough in my gun to give that another coat and that another coat. And I think I'll leave everything else. Morning guys, so welcome back. So I think the plan is today, I'm going to spin the chassis around. I'm going to try and get the motor and box in there this morning, if I can. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the diff. I'm hoping I might just loosen the bolts off and drop it down. If I can get it in, and then I can push it back inside, and then at some point put some axle stands underneath the back somewhere and just shift the diff back and hook it up properly, because it's got that, it's not a drive shaft, it's the what do you want to call it, internal torque tube. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can slip it in without dropping the diff out and undoing all the springs and letting it all hang back. I'm hoping I can just drop it in and then connect the dots later, if you know what I mean. Then I might just slip the diff back and put it in. And then if we can get that done, and then I'm going to start cleaning the body up some more, and start doing the finish sand on the doors and all that stuff, because I would like to paint the firewall in the insides of the doors and the hood sides and tops in the next couple of days if I can. And then I've also got a few other bits and pieces that I need to paint black, so that will also give me an opportunity to give it a good flick around that gearbox and stuff once we've got it in the chassis and we've got everything hooked back up. Better take it outside. I'll give that gearbox now another good blast down with that water blaster, see if we get the last of the crap off it, and then let it dry, and we can give that a mist in there, in the fire, and the cross member and lots of stuff, get that all painted. I'm going to do it in the car. I think that's kind of the easiest way to do it. It's too awkward and it needs a bit more of a decent clean. I think if it's hanging in the chassis, I can give it a bloody good clean, and then we can cover the motor and box up, or cover the motor up, and we can give that a good dust in with some black. Righty, so at the moment, try to get a slightly better position. That's better. I'm trying to get the gearbox clutch kind of lined up. It's a bit of a oddball. It's got like these little spring things that are going to go on these like 6 pins that come off the flywheel. I think it must be 16. So these 6 pins come off the flywheel, and the clutch plates slide over that. But it's got these 2 long springs that hook onto the clutch. Now it must be just to help keep it centered, I guess, on those pins, so it's not dragging one way, I'm guessing. I don't really understand why they're there. It's kind of what I'm thinking. It obviously just helps pull the clutch back off the pins when it's being released or something. So yeah, I'm going to try and get them lined up, but I think I need to take that plate off just so I can get the clutch lined up when I get it further in, because the flywheel's so deep. You can't, once you sort of get it too close, you can't see in there. Well, it doesn't look like I got very far, and I haven't. But I've only just got this frickin' thing lined up because those silly little springs, and then I dropped one. Found it was actually in behind the flywheel. It flicked through one of the holes and was just sitting in the back of the flywheel, and like that piece right down the bottom. So I've eventually found that, and persevered to try and get those springs lined up and the clutch lined up and to get it in there. So now I got it on there. I did have some wire tied around to hold those things. I had to hold them individually so I could get it and then turn the clutch and get it wiggling. Fortunately, I ended up with an extra set of hands here for a while. The owner of the Studebaker gave me a hand. I wasn't filming anything, so, but now I got it to the point where I should be able to finish rolling the box around and the bow housing around to at least get some bolts in here, and then we can work on trying to get it in the freaking hole. But it's now basically 11 o'clock in the morning. So I've been fighting with it since, I don't know when. Time just disappears when you're fighting. Anyway, we'll carry on. Right, so I got 3 bolts in. Unfortunately, I got the crossing room because it's actually hitting the ground. So I got 3 bolts just loosely in, so hopefully the box won't fall off. And I can get the cross member in the right position and get it close, then we can whip the nuts off and slip it on and try and get everything to work. Hopefully we can just lift it up and then whatever, now we can get it to jiggle around and get the motor up a little bit higher at the back or whatever. On the plan. Clean the hands and we'll have a shuffle around. We'll flip the studio outside and see if we can kind of get that angle on the dangle and maybe get this thing half in there. Oh, I thought I actually turned it on, but obviously not. We're in the wall park. we'll check the timers, and I think it's probably about lunchtime. At least she's in there. She's in the hole. Yeah, so we'll have to loosen these bolts off, slip that back, pop that in. But at least we can push it out now. We can put the cover back on there. Give this a bloody good clean up. A better clean up now. Hopefully get rid of some more shit off this. Try and get some colour on this at some point. And get this ready to go back together. At least then we can turn this back round. We can lift the back up, slip that back in at some point in the next few days. I'm not too worried about it now. Like the motoring box is in, I can slip that out after I've even got the body on. It doesn't matter shit. I can do it from underneath, if you know what I mean. But at least now we can get this stuff cleaned up. You know, everything's sitting in place. Those bolts really need replaced, but it is what it is. But yeah, at least it's in there now. We can sort a lot of crap out. When I paint some bits and pieces, paint that little thing, put that back on. I'd only had the 2 bolts in there, so I'll hunt around and see if I can find another bolt to put in there, bolt that on, so it holds that front piece in the motor. So you can see why you can't get it out, because you can't go forward, and the only way you can do it is go backwards. So you're going to be right back to here, and it's almost going to be sort of twisted and drop that side in first before you can get this corner in, yeah, and then slip it forward. So what have we got? About 2 feet. It's got to go back 2 feet to get that motoring box out. So yeah, it's a prick of an idea, absolute prick of an idea. Anyway, we're there now. That's good. I'll go have some lunch. Give me back a break. Reckon it just about killed me just being down there bent over. Anyway, we'll, at least we can tackle it again after lunch now. Give my hands a decent clean, and yeah, we're in there, so that's all that matters to me at the moment. We can carry on with body, get some paint around the firewall and whatever, and at some point I can whip this back together and screw on with that shit. Awesome. And get this motoring box, get the end of the box cleaned up and get that tape off and sort of last few little bits and pieces out there at some point before we drop the body on. But I'd rather get paint on these bits. Alrighty, awesome. Took a little bit longer than I thought, but we've still got it done in the time frame that I wanted. Righty, so I've got all the panels laid out that we're going to be working on. Oh, I've still got to put the sides up there. Got all the other panels over there laid out and covered up in the meantime. So obviously when we start spraying on the stuff or doing whatever we do, we're not getting overspray on any of that. It's the best, it's sort of the best I can do at the moment. So yeah, we'll start with sanding and cleaning up and bits and pieces, and then probably won't be today, but we'll get some colour on, at least on the insides, all this stuff in that firewall, and then hopefully in a maybe by what's today, Monday, so hopefully by maybe Wednesday we can have the body sitting on. Yeah, it should be. If I can get it painted early tomorrow morning, as long as I'm not touching the firewall, we should be good. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. You shouldn't have to touch the firewall really to do anything with it. So yeah, I probably won't spray out around the edge. It might be a little bit of overspray out there, but on that where the holes are for the webbing stuff for the hood to sit down. But yeah, we won't. Well, we might have a little bit of paint out there, but there won't be a lot. That'll be sanded and painted back over. Just having a break for a couple. I've got a little bit of putty and a couple of funny patches in the doors where I did repairs. I actually think I might get the paint on tonight, which would be really cool. I've basically finished sanding the firewall. sanded most of the inside of the doors. I actually forgot I already sanded the insides of the hood sides and the tops. I'm just going to do a little bit of clean up, just make sure they're nice and clean. So yeah, we might get them sprayed out. So I think what I'll do is I'll mask the front edge of that body off, because it's actually a seam where it just comes around. So what I'll do is I think I'll just mask the front edge of the cowl off, not where the holes are on that piece, but back behind that, I think. Just put a couple strips of tape down there. I'm not too worried about overspray, but just stop the thick of it getting over there. I won't spray around the corner at all. I'll try not to. I'll just blow a little bit around there. I think that's where I'll stop. Yeah, and that'll just give us a good opportunity to get that body on in the next couple of days. I'll still probably put it on Wednesday, but that'll give me a good chance to sand the rest of the back of the body a bit more and make sure we're right there. But at least that gives it a couple of days to dry out a decent amount, and same with the insides of this stuff. And yeah, and I can carry on sanding, if you know what I mean. We can just sand the back of the body and screw around with a few other bits and pieces, get some of these other small stuff cleaned up that I need to paint. Just a quick first, just to get it on. So seal the panel up, get it sticky. Be interesting to see what colour it looks like when it's had a couple of coats. So our green's pretty transparent. Righty, go on with another coat. Looks it there. It's quite dark though still. And we'll do it one more at least, and then just whatever's left in the gun we'll just tidy up any other spots that look a bit bare, but when we turn it up the other way and sand everything off and whatever and paint the other side, we'll at least they'll we'll better get any little spots that are missed in the edges and shit like that. I'm not too stressed. I only want colour in here, and it's got opportunity to get the insides of these. It's very dark. Yeah, it just needs another coat. All good. we'll do one more. If it run out on that third one, like if it did the whole lot and I had a little bit left, I would have just tipped it out, but we'll do one more since I've had to mix up enough for probably 1.5-ish. We'll do one more. Won't hurt. Alrighty guys, so welcome to the next morning. I'm actually going to make an ending now. I forgot to do it last night. I tend to do that a bit. I just get busy with so much footage. I sometimes don't know quite where I'm going to end a video. Anyway, so yeah, we've got about 3 or 4 coats on most of this. We end up having to mix up a little bit more. So I didn't quite have enough to do the sides. But there's plenty of colour on, like 3 coats was definitely enough to get full colour. Especially on the inside. I think I'll do 4 coats when we do go to do the outside, just so we've got plenty of coverage, just in case at some point it needs to be, you know, somebody wants to wet sand it and polish it. You don't want it too thin, otherwise, you know, you start buffing or whatever, you know, and then all of a sudden you can see through it. But yeah, we're pretty good there. Pretty happy with the results. So yeah, basically in the next video, you know, we'll finish wet sanding the body, you know, and then hopefully I'll spend most of the day doing that now. And then probably tomorrow or something like that, probably get the body back on the chassis. And if I run out of sanding this today, then I'll start cleaning up all the other little bits and pieces that need to be painted black and all that sort of stuff. And we might even get the back of the gearbox done. It'll just depend on the weather too. But yeah. We probably won't be painting again, probably till maybe, probably at least tomorrow before we paint anything else. And at that point, there'll probably be only primer on the inside of here, or we may do some of the black parts, small stuff, and blowing around that gearbox and bits and pieces. I had a few black parts to clean up in there, and then also I've got quite a bit of, you know, all the hinges and bits and pieces. But I need to be careful that I don't mix all that shit up and then can't figure out what bits meant to be on what door. But yeah, a few bits and pieces to do. We'll get sanding on here, get that rest of that cleaned up, ready to lift onto the body at least, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, catch you later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the new subscribers recently. If you can, please give me a thumbs up on the thing. Leave a comment if you like. Share my videos around. You know, if you come across somebody that you're talking about my videos, yeah, share them. Very much appreciated. We're getting slowly climbing up in numbers there, so it'd be awesome to just get out to a few more people. You know, get the channel built up. Yeah, and we'll see you in the next video, and we'll hopefully, maybe in the next video, we should have it painted, or just see how that pans out with the other bits and pieces going on. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Hey guys, if you need welding gas, go see the boys at Cool Gas. If you're in New Zealand, yep, go see these guys. They'll look after you. Cool Gas, New Zealand.